Well, hello, everyone. This is Reckless Speculation Thursday on Mackey and Judd. We're going to get our friend Darren Doogie Wolfson in to start some things off with Vikings rumors and speculation. We're also going to get to some old tweets exposed. So all kinds of stuff on the horizon here. A quick thank you to Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They power Reckless Speculation Thursday on Mackey and Judd, and they help power and empower business owners across the state of Minnesota. In fact, Federated recently launched My Shield, the online client destination for risk management resources. My Shield has resources to help your business with peace of mind and risk management needs. Find out more at federatedinsurance.com or download the app. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours, Dex.
TCL is a proud sponsor of the Score North Studios. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Does Ezra Cleveland move to left tackle? Do they use pick 14 on a left tackle? Would they go with Rashad Hill? They love Rashad, but like with so much on the line in 2021, the futures of Mike Zimmer and Rick Spielman certainly up in the air to some extent. I think they have some sort of other plan. Like, I don't know if they're ready to roll with Ezra Cleveland at left tackle. So I'll be real curious. I mean, that's something that I'm obviously digging into right now. Like, what's the plan? But you think about the Northwestern offensive lineman, the USC offensive lineman, like a really good left tackle could be staring them in the face.
Doogie, what I want to credit that podcast. What podcast were you spewing takes on last night?
That was last night. Good morning, gentlemen. Good afternoon. That was last night on the Climbing the Pocket podcast. Those right guys, Miles and Matt and those guys do really good work. They are super passionate about the Vikings. One thing that was cut off there in that lengthy answer I gave was the possibility of Brian O'Neill moving from right tackle to left tackle. They will sign Brian O'Neill to a long-term deal. Like, I'm convinced of that before the season starts. I don't think at this point talks have super ramped up, but that's another possibility. Judd and I were just talking off mic, but they've kicked the tires in that idea previously, so I would not dismiss that possibility. But they could trade for an offensive lineman, Orlando Brown Jr. of Baltimore. Now, I'm on record, I think, on this show, on this podcast, going back multiple weeks, saying that they really, that talks had not ramped up big time, but they have talked to Baltimore. I don't remember exactly what I said a few weeks ago, but at this point I can tell you there has been dialogue with the Ravens. Now, do the Ravens even want to move Orlando Brown Jr.? But I think there's a lot of possibilities out there. I think a lot of balls are up in the air right now.
Hey, but before we do a dive into Orlando Brown Jr., because I love the fact that you've now said those three names and put them in the same sentence as the Vikings. Judd was texting Declan and I last night too a little bit. Just we got to talk about, there's some steam here. But a tweet just came across just to set the scene for the Minnesota Vikings here. This tweet comes across from Climate Ben on Twitter. And he says, breaking, Joe Biden's new NASA chief climate change advisor has made it clear that even with aggressive emissions reductions, we should be prepared for global warming levels that will likely wipe out half of the Earth's species and threaten the lives of billions of people this century. So if you're the Vikings looking to win your first Super Bowl, the clock is ticking officially as of today, according to NASA. I just want to throw that out there to set the scene for you guys.
Wow. What's the next step off that one? How long do I have? Because I'm
this century. You have what is it? 2021. You have 79 years or less for the Vikings to win a championship.
I'll be long dead though. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot, Phil. Thanks for that great start to the show. I'm really glad that we're all
anytime.
What's the Twitter account? Sorry, Phil. I was looking at a couple text messages, so I was feigning interest in what you were saying.
What?
He just told us we're going to die soon, Doogie.
I just told you the world was going to end.
You know what, though? Kirk Cousins will be spared. He'll live. He'll be fine. Okay?
Not his fault.
Okay, Doogie, I'm going to go back to the Orlando Brown Jr. thing and ask you
Well, now I'm flummoxed. So, the world is ending?
Doogie, you never...
Okay. There's a tweet. Phil, isn't there literally a tweet every day from somebody suggesting that the end of the world is upon us?
Doogie, wait. I can handle Phil starting the show with "We're all screwed." Okay, I can handle that.
Well, we've all been screwed for a while.
Here's what I can't handle. My friend Darren saying I'm flummoxed. A man who has been in front of a microphone since I believe approximately the age of 11. Okay.
I went from finger painting to
Exactly
radio.
right.
I'm not flummoxed talking into the microphone.
I was going to say, I love you, but you are never at a loss for words. And if you are actually flummoxed by news that we're all going to die here, I'm shocked.
All right, Orlando Brown Jr.
Wait. Off of that point, I've got a quick question. What do you think? Because this is the most important thing with Reef gone. Give me what you think is the Vikings like A, B, and C at left tackle, and where you think Orlando Brown Jr. factors into the equation.
I think plan A was to find a way to keep Riley Reef. Like, they had a bunch of dialogue with Neil Cornrich, his agent. In fact, I mean, I'm surprised it came to the point of them releasing him. But okay, so he's gone. I don't think they're re-signing Reef at this point, even though technically they could. So plan A, plan B, plan C. I'll tell you this much. I don't foresee Ezra Cleveland at this point shifting out to left tackle. So if you want to rank that plan B or plan C, that's not plan A. I'm still piecing it together, Judd, but
okay.
Like Brian O'Neill, I guess would make some sense. He is their best offensive lineman, but he's been so good at right tackle. What's the draft compensation they would need to give Baltimore for Orlando Brown Jr.? Like, could you get him for, I mean, you're not getting him for a 3. You're not giving up 14, right? So what exactly are you giving up to get Orlando Brown Jr.? But trading for a guy like that, maybe it's not Orlando Brown Jr., maybe it's somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would not dismiss that possibility. And I do think, like, Spielman was at the Northwestern Pro Day earlier this week. That offensive lineman is right there in the wheelhouse of pick 14, although I still think there's a chance that the Vikings move back from 14, end up going with a defensive player with their first pick. But I do think whether it's the Northwestern kid or the USC kid, like, they will have a decision to make with an offensive lineman sitting there at 14.
I love the idea of bookend young 25-year-old offensive tackles. I mean, people like Brian O'Neill kind of feels like, hey, he's been around a while now, right? That dude's 25 years old. Orlando Brown Jr. is 25 years old. And so, you know, I think a second-round pick feels right in terms of what I would feel comfortable giving up for Orlando Brown Jr., but obviously the Vikings don't have a second-round pick. And so I'm kind of running through the mental exercise. If Baltimore said, listen, we'll definitely do this, but it has to be the 14th overall pick. You have to trade us your first-round pick for him. It would feel like a little bit of an overpay, but when you put it into the context of your bookends, your potentially your two most important long-term offensive line pieces are just set for the next X amount of years, even if you have to give those guys big-time contract extensions in the next 12 months. I would strongly consider it. I don't know where you guys are at with this, but a first-round pick for Orlando Brown Jr. is something I would entertain. What about you guys?
I would say this. I would offer them my 14th pick for a flop of first-round picks, and then I would offer them a pick or two in, like, I don't know, the 5th round, the 4th round, perhaps. If I do that, I probably want their first-round pick back, but they still get 14, and so they upgrade, and Baltimore's thing is, like, they've allowed Brown to talk to potential teams here. So he's clearly going to move, I think, right? So if that's the case, I start with, you take 14, I take your first round pick, and I give you a little bit more in the draft.
Maybe the happy medium is the Vikings get back the second round pick from the Ngakoue trade, where Baltimore says, we're not swapping. I don't know where Baltimore picks in the first round, but we're not giving you pick 24, even though we're moving up 10 spots. That's just not worth us giving up Orlando Brown Jr. I will claim ignorance on having intimate knowledge of Baltimore's offensive line situation. I know Ronnie Stanley went down. Is it Ronnie, first name?
Yeah.
The Notre Dame
but
kid.
He's their left tackle.
He is their left tackle. He went down with the injury. That's when Orlando Brown Jr. shifted to left tackle, but he's not, like, is he a natural left tackle? Did he play left tackle at Oklahoma? How much left tackle NFL experience does he have? When does he do more money? I mean, Phil, you just said maybe in the next 12 months.
Yes.
So it's pretty quick. Like, would it make more logical sense to just take the Northwestern kid or the USC kid, lock that kid in for 5 years, the 4 years, plus that 5th year option, at a reasonable number at pick 14? Would that make more sense? I struggle to see Baltimore saying, yeah, here's pick 24 and Orlando Brown Jr. for us to move up 10 spots. If you could do that deal, sign me up, fully knowing that Brown Jr. is due big money here pretty quick.
Yeah, I think there are so many dominoes here that you have to sort out. If you're Rick Spielman and you're looking at essentially four potential blank canvas offensive line spots. I know that Garrett Bradbury is locked in as the center, but I'm not convinced that he's going to be a viable pass blocking center. And so you have to have your eye on that at some point going forward here. Doogie, where do you think he should start? Like, where, as you look at this thing and say, all right, we got to fix the offensive line. The goal is to win and to contend for and win a Super Bowl in 2021, which means going from, you're probably gonna have to make a jump of like 4 wins and obviously have a bunch of improvements. Where do you think they start here? Where do you think, like, does it start with clearing more money like an Anthony Barr? Does it start with engaging with a Joe Thuney in free agency? What do you think?
Well, on Barr, something's up there. Now, the dead money is over $7 million if you just let him go. But what about the possibility of trading?
Whoa, Dukes, wait.
Anthony Barr?
Wait for it.
Reckless speculation.
I'm not quite sure Mike Zimmer would be on board with that, but what if trading Anthony Barr, getting out from underneath that enormous contract, then frees up you to do something else, whether that's Carl Lawson, maybe Joe Thuney. They had interest in Thuney a year ago. They didn't have the money, but I can tell you he's been on their radar previously. I mean, number one, though, Phil, to answer your question, Phil, it's to solve the conundrum that is Danielle Hunter. There is something there. I don't know exactly what is all going on there, but there is something there with Danielle Hunter. He did not randomly like those tweets on Twitter last week suggesting that he gets traded. I'm just telling you, there's more to that story. I don't have all the details right this second, but that is a situation I'm monitoring as much as any with this team.
So, Dukes, I think you're exactly right. And I think that there is, I think that the Hunter camp made it clear months ago that he wants to be among, if not the highest paid defensive player in the entire league, which, of course, as we've talked about a bunch of times on this show, is probably almost fair, except for the fact that he had a neck problem, which scares you. All of that being said, though, Dukes, the more thought I give this, unless they're convinced that they don't know if Hunter is going to come back and be the same player and then try and essentially trade him for a first-round pick or two to a team that thinks he's going to be fine. I think you can call Danielle in, and I think you can negotiate a contract that actually helps you short-term now, because the Dak contract is the first one that teams are basically nodding to the fact that the cap is going way down for 2021. And so they're structuring them as such. So like you could structure a 4 to 5 year contract that's going to have some significant cap hits, let's say in 2024 when the new TV deal is kicked in, right? But get you way down cap wise for him this coming season. So I think that you're right. I think there's something there, but I think with the way that the Vikings operate, if you do this right as far as the structure of that contract, you are fine. The Barr one intrigues me because there's such a diverse variety of opinions on him as far as what he brings. Like you hear from people that the statistics don't reflect the value, that he calls the defenses, that he does all of these things that we don't see but are absolutely key. But then you keep coming back to that damn contract, and you can't get past the fact that they paid this guy likely too much in sort of a panic of, well, we can get him back. Let's take him back. So I think immediately the thing to watch is probably Barr. And I'm not going to be shocked if it leaks out within the next 2 or 3 days that there has been a trade worked out when the league year begins on Wednesday, that Anthony Barr has been traded. That one won't
interesting. So I don't think you're randomly tossing that out, Judd. So, I believe that you have some steam on that. To me, it makes sense. Like, I guess, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if we have some news. George Payton is a fan of his. George runs the Broncos. A team like the Indianapolis Colts could make sense. They can use some pass rushing help. Maybe you can use Anthony Barr in a different way. I think we've all wondered, is there a way for the Vikings to use him in a different way? Because we always hear that he has an impact, but oftentimes the impact is he allows others to make the splash plays. That what he does is more subtle, but maybe his camp feel like, hey, there's more to unleash there. Maybe they would welcome a change of scenery. I think that situation is worth keeping an eye on too. Like if I'm saying Hunter is 1A, Barr is 1B on the contract. So like that reminds me of Dalvin Cook's contract. So if you look at the structure of Dalvin's extension, look at his cap number for 2021, or his base salary at least, and cap number for that matter. I mean, it's relatively low. I mean, you can go to overthecap.com or whatever website you want. I don't have the numbers right here in front of me, but the Dalvin Cook contract for this particular year is very, very reasonable. I mean, Rob Brzezinski structured that contract a very certain way. But yeah, I mean, it's 1A and 1B, Phil. Like, what's the number one issue with this team? To me, it's based on last year, lack of a pass rush, right? Like, we can talk all we want about fixing the offensive line, and it needs fixing. But like, to me, number one is they need to get to the quarterback. Does Danielle Hunter solve all those problems? Could they use another pass rusher? That's why I bring up Carl Lawson's name, the free agent from the Bengals. Now, Cincinnati wants him back. I was surprised they didn't franchise tag him. The Cleveland Browns have some interest. They have cap space. The Colts have interest. They have cap space. So the Vikings, will be hard-pressed to get into some sort of bidding war, whether it's Lawson, Thuney, or you name the premier free agent. But, like, that's where I'm saying I think they have so much right now that they're kicking around. It's going to be a very fascinating 7 to 10 days, put it that way.
Let me tell you sort of my armchair GM philosophy on if the goal is get as close to Super Bowl contention as possible in 2021. Yes, the defense was the thing that lagged behind the most last year. And so like to me, the level one thinking is, well, you need to pour whatever resources you have into making your defense as good as your offense was last year. I think that's actually wrong. Because I think your defense automatically gets better and becomes league average at worst by just getting Danielle Hunter back. And I get that that's a question too, and we'll put that aside for a second. But if Danielle Hunter comes back on a new contract or whatever it may be, and Michael Pierce comes back and Cam Dantzler is a year more experienced, I think you've got the ingredients not of a top 3 defense like they had in 2017, but of a top half of the league defense with one of the great defensive scheming coaches. And now it's on you guys to just be a formidable and good situational defense. With the resources that I have, a first-round pick, any cap space that I have, I'm looking to pour that into an offense that was 11th in points, get that offense closer to top 3, top 5, and be a dominating offense and a defense that can stop teams on third down and red zone. I don't think you're a Super Bowl contender if you've got the 11th best offense in points and your defense is like 12th or 13th because you've spent a few bucks in free agency. I think you have a chance to make your offense dominant with a couple pieces, and your defense gets better automatically. So that's the framework, Doogie, that I'm sort of operating in if I were the GM.
That's fair. Can you do both? So is there a workable trade scenario where you do land Orlando Brown Jr.? Wait, like he's not. Does somebody have his contract right in front of them?
Yeah,
I'll grab it. Yeah,
it's a rookie contract that is the same as
so
O'Neal's.
When does it expire? So it's a 4-year deal, right? So he's entering the final year of his deal?
Correct.
So you need to rework that pretty quick. I mean, I guess I was going to toss out the scenario of waiting a little bit to extend Brown Jr. You end up trading Anthony Barr, and you go sign a premier pass rusher, Carl Lawson or whomever. That you could do both, I guess is what I'm getting at, Phil. I wish I had all the caponomics in front of me. It certainly would entail making a move on Barr, and I mean, heck, they're talking to Shamar Steffen's agent. I don't think you can have Shamar back at his current number.
$3 million plus.
Does he agree to come back at a lower number? The Colquitt restructure is finalized now, so they'll save like 1.5. So like at this moment, they are roughly, based on my calculations, about $10.4 million under the cap, right in that ballpark. Mm-hmm. But if you make a move on Barr, what's the Barr cap number, Judd? The dead money's 7.5.
7 plus on both. Yeah.
All right. So I mean,
they would save
his cap number is 15, and you'd save 7.2 if you cut him.
7.2. Yeah. So,
but what if you trade him?
Same thing.
So,
yep, same number.
Yeah. So I mean, there are ways to get to north of 20 million ish in cap space. Am I wrong on those calculations?
No, there's We did this yesterday on Purple Data. There's a pretty clear path to a $20 million chunk of free agency money. Yes.
All right. So just to answer your question, Phil, or to rebuttal what you said, I think there is a way. But I think what you said is fair. I understand all that. That go sign Thuney or go trade for Orlando Brown Jr., 4 to 5 for the first time in many, many years, maybe the first time in the Rick Spielman era of running the organization that they would finally have what appears to be a top 5 offensive line. I understand that.
Yeah, so I think the key thing too is, and we don't know this, what's the cap going to go back up to in 2022? And then what's it going to probably soar to in 23? Because
I think it soars in 2022, deals, don't you think, Judd?
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to soar next year.
It might, but the question that I have as far as the offensive line construction goes and the future here is this. Left tackle, are you going to, move O'Neal? If you go get Brown, Dukes, to your point, when you go get him, a restructure of some point, or an extension, I should say, has to be done, right? Because you're not going to trade for him and then say, we got 1 year, that's great. And then off of that, the question becomes, what do you still do at left guard? How much cap space do you have for 2021, which is not going to be a ton, it's going to be more. But I think the most important thing to keep in mind, though, is if you go to a good free agent left guard and sign him, and you give him the cash up front and you defer the cap hits to the back end of that contract, this is doable. So it's a little bit confusing because we're dealing in a world where the cap came down, but it sounds like the cap is going to then just shoot right back up. And I guess what I don't know is it going to shoot up immediately in 2022? Is it going to be 2023? But that's where we're in this sort of odd world of as odd as this sounds, the league is going to be poor for essentially 1 year. But there's ways to circumvent that. And if you can do it right, I think that you can set yourself up pretty well at left guard and left tackle.
Who is the left guard then? So let's play this out. So Orlando Brown Jr. is your left tackle. Who is your left guard? Bradbury at center.
Yep.
Ezra Cleveland right guard. Brian O'Neill right tackle. Who's your left guard?
I think it's a pretty good player who's probably been cut. Thuney's going to be too expensive. I think he's going to get paid.
I'm with you there, though.
Amount.
There's going to be, to me, the guard position.
Like Zeitler.
Yes.
A guy
I think
like
you'll
that.
be able to get to me like him, a Gabe Jackson. I mean, I'm not sure if either is a real good scheme fit. They did chase Zeitler, at least in trade talks a couple years ago. So there is interest, or has been interest from Spielman and company and Zeitler.
All right, can you play football? Sorry.
Yes,
it's not your fault.
I think about the Giants offensive lineman that went in the second round.
Will Hernandez.
Yeah, I mean, they felt like he just wasn't a scheme fit. Now, I don't even know if he's great or good or average, if he has been for the Giants. But I just remember, we were fascinated over that name, that particular draft year. They passed on him. And, I mean, the word was he wasn't a scheme fit. So, right or wrong, that's the way they approach it. But they had interest in Zeitler, so Zeitler absolutely can make sense. I don't know about Gabe Jackson or some other guards. I haven't done enough of a deep dive on scheme fits with guards quite to date. But yeah, I think just based on the way everything is set up, you're going to be able to get a good free agent on a 1 year deal. I think a lot of guys are going to sign 1 year deals, right, Judd? Just everything you just laid out.
Yes, 100%.
The cap absolutely is going back up.
Yep.
It may even go back up significantly. I mean, these TV deals are going to be astronomical whenever they officially announce them here in the coming weeks or months. The cap is going to go way back up in 2022. So if you're a Zeitler or you name the free agent, why not just sign a 1 year deal? So sign a 1 year deal, go somewhere where you can, reestablish your value, then cash in again a year from now. So I think you're right. I think you can find, it may not be Thuney, but you can find a decent free agent for 1 year to start at left guard.
Yeah, another name.
Speculation.
Someone's got to fire the damn sounder, okay?
It's glorious. Another name to throw out there is I guess now he'd be the second ranked. This is before all the some of these guards like Zeitler got cut after this list was put out. But before the recent cuts, Matt Filer was the third ranked PFF guard free agent, 96th overall, third among guards. And he's 28 years old. He's projected to make $6 to $8 million a year, so less than a Joe Thuney. Played for the Steelers the last few years. And the last 3 seasons, he's been ranked out of 80 offensive guards qualified. He's been ranked 35th, 19th, and 32nd. So if you just want a good, solid, better than Dakota Dozier or Drew Samia guard who's a professional and is going to give you, he's just going to give you peace of mind. Matt Filer is on that list too. Hey, before we get to more scoops, I want to shout out because every day now until March 26th, we are in a very giving mood here at Score North with Score North's Pick Your Prize Month. So every day until March 26th, one person who opens the Score North app will win $100. Today, we gave away $100 to Jason Elwood from Alexandria, Minnesota. So congratulations to Jason. Jason's also entered to win a $10,000 prize pack from one of our 9 partners. So if you want to get involved and you want to get your hands on $100 and maybe even a $10,000 prize pack, you have to open the Score North app. You can do it once per day or as many times you want. You can enter once per day until March 26th. It's free to download for the Apple and Android devices. And it's a one-stop shop for all of our Score North content. So open the app, register, and enter the Pick Your Prize contest through listener rewards.
Right here in the comments. Just right down below. Right down below in the comments. Nothing else. Don't take this visual for anything else for what it is. It's right below in the comments.
It's always a little creepy when Declan points below the fold.
I've told him 75
It's not
times.
as weird as I'm sitting about 5 feet from him. I imagine like when he's in here by himself,
Get out,
it could
Doogie.
get really, really
Doogie,
awkward.
get out of that room, Doogie.
Amazing. So Doogie, any final Vikings scoopage from you, or should we move on to Patino watch or Wolves watch? It's your
Well, I mean,
call.
they tried to restructure Dan Bailey. They couldn't come to a happy medium. I'm on record going back weeks that Anthony Barr is not on board with a restructure. So I'm telling you, keep an eye on Anthony Barr here in the coming days. Like I'm telling you, like the next 7 to 10 to 14 days is going to be absolutely nuts. It just is. They continue dialogue with Shamar Steffen's agent. Like I don't see him back at his current number. He has fans in the building, but can they lower that number? There is no steam, at least right now, on a Harrison Smith extension. I think eventually.
Really?
Yeah, I think eventually, but just nothing going on right now. I checked this morning even.
Okay.
Yeah, just nothing right now.
Thought there would be.
Yeah. Well, I think eventually. I do. I think eventually, Judge, is not right this second.
Okay.
Interesting. All right.